how this pagan worship that is being done today belongs to that great beast that is to take the world to the new world order. The beginning of secret societies, the beginning of the mother god worship, the beginning of the sexual cult, of all that is involved in today in the Catholic Church, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, because all of them have relations with the Pope and the papacy. All of them go to visit the Vatican. All of the powerful people, the elite, all of them go to see the Pope. As it was a mystery religion based on oral transmission from initiate to initiate, where followers were obliged to keep the rituals of their cult secret. This Mithraic cult was based on secret societies, and we can see that the Roman Catholic Church was based on this because it all has the same origin. This is the last of the lower degrees. The neophyte, naked, kneeling, blindfolded, and with his hands tied, has a crown placed on his head, and his bonds are cut. In certain grades of Freemasonry, they are blindfolded and forced to do certain rituals to be able to ascend to a higher level. Based on secret societies, could it be that Roman Catholic religion is also based on secret societies? Well, the thing is that it is, and this is what we're going to see. Many people have asked themselves, what is the mark of the beast? Others that already know what it is ask themselves, when will the mark of the beast be? These are the things that we will be showing throughout these presentations. We already started with the first part, that we will leave it up here if you're interested in seeing how the biblical prophecies written so many years ago, even more than 2,000 years ago, are being fulfilled with such a precision that is astounding. Today we will be continuing with this topic about the mark of the beast to see how the prophecies continue to be fulfilled. And to do that, we will go through history to see how throughout these past 2,000 years, more or less, the power that is going to enforce that mark of the beast has been working, how it has been transforming like a beast, changing its shape and forms until today. But it has always been the same power. We will see, as the wise Solomon said, that there is nothing new under the sun. That means that cycles happen, things change, but we can always see the same symbolisms and the same power behind the scenes that is ruling this world, taking it to a new world order. Now, if we take a look at this image here, a representation of what the Triple Alliance is, an alliance of three powers. On the left, we have the Vatican State with, as we see, the obelisk in the square of St. Peter. And on the right, we can see the Capitol with also the obelisk or the monument of George Washington right in front of that building also. Now, these two buildings are both a state building. It is where, for example, the Capitol, the laws are established, the Senate is there, but also in the Vatican, which is a state that has both powers, both religious and also it's a state power. The Pope is representing the leader of that country as a president, we could say, but also as a religious leader. If we take a look at the image, we can say that both of them have this dome shape on top of them. There are similarities between the Capitol and the St. Peter's Basilica. And in the middle, there is a very famous image that many people of us know, which is represented as the all-seeing eye, that we can link it with the Illuminati, with secret societies, Freemasonry and so on. Now these powers in prophecy are linked between them, and the one that is linking both of them together is the one in the middle, Spiritism or Spiritualism, which is not only people that have like a glass ball and try to tell your future or throw the cards and read your hand, but we are talking about true occultism, people that are in high-level secret societies, and how this Spiritism is linking these two powers. And these three powers together are the ones that are taking the world to this new world order and eventually to the mark of the beast. So to begin with this presentation, we will start with a small video of different parts of history. Apparently, they may have no connection between them, but as we go through the presentation, we will see that they do have, and a lot. So let's begin.
carica suavi,
si ti carica suavi,
nostro bonus patri martis,
nostro bonus patri martis,
Leo
eterna, eterna, victis, Leo eterna, eterna.
Fundador, soy Ignacio y general de la compañía real que Jesús con su nombre distinguió, la legión de Loyola con fiel corazón.
So as we've seen in the video, what do Babylon, Persia, the Roman Empire, the French Revolution, the order of the Jesuits, and also the Spanish Republic, the moment of the Spanish Republic, are they all linked together? We will see how they are. And the power that is taking the world to this new world order is the one that we will see between all these processes, all these different situations in history. So let's begin. Babylon the Great, from Inquisition to Revolution. This is what we will be seeing. Revelation 17 is the one that talks about this power. And it says, "And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." Now this symbolism of sitting upon many waters, then we can say, what does this mean? Well, the Bible explains itself in future verses, as we will see. Verse 2, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." So the kings, the rulers of the earth, are the ones that have been intimating with this power, and they have been benefiting themselves of the relationship with this power that is represented here as a woman. This woman is referring to a church, precisely the Catholic Church. And we can see here on the funeral of Pope Francis when he died, all the different kings and presidents of all the nations around the earth mourning the death, as Revelation 18 says, of the Pope. Because all of them have relations with the Pope and the papacy. All of them go to visit the Vatican. The Pope is not the one that goes to where they are unless he has a certain thing to do. All of the powerful people, the elite, WHO organization, the World Economic Forum, all of them go to see the Pope that is ruling at that time. So as we can see here, this power, this church represented as a woman, the great whore, is the Vatican itself. And all the kings and all the nations are the ones that go to her to fornicate with her and benefit from her riches, doing business with this power. And it continues, Revelation 17, 3 and 4. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colour, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication." This power was dressed in scarlet and purple. And this is the colours that represent the bishops, the cardinals, and the popes from all times. Also, with precious pearls and gold, great riches and great power is what represents the ruling of this church, of this power. Revelation 17 verses 5 and 6 said, "And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration." For thousands of years, God's people have been persecuted. But during a certain period of time when the Roman Catholic Church got into power, it started to go against directly all of those people that wanted to translate the Bible and to get it in the common language so that people could understand what it said. Why were they not interested in people reading it? Because it denounces precisely who they are. It says, these are the enemies. This is the big enemy and the final power that will take the world to the great deception. That's why the reason of our channel named The Final Great Deception. The final great deception that is to come upon this world. This power, as we can see, and the prophecy said it 2,000 years ago, that these saints were going to be taken to death. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life, from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. The beast that was, that is not, and yet is. The title of this presentation. A power that was in the past, it is not in the present, but yet it is. It still is in power in the present, and in other versions it says, it will be. So this is a power that was in power. At the present moment's time, it will not be because something happened to it. Something happened to that power that it received a mortal wound. But then it would eventually recover and it would come back to power once again. So that's why it says, the beast that was and is not, but yet is. Like a mystery that we will see here. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads of the beast are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. This, we saw it on the previous part of this presentation. The 7 mountains were the 7 mountains of Rome. The beast, this power, is established in Rome, the city of the 7 mountains. Curious because also they say that Jerusalem is sitting above 7 mountains. Could it be that this power could maybe move from Rome to Jerusalem? We will see this eventually. Revelation 17:12-15 says, And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So this power, we must keep this concept of this symbolism, is sitting upon waters. That means that it is built upon many nations, peoples and multitudes. It is in a place that is established where there's a lot of population, and that it is ruling over many different languages, nations and multitudes. It's a power that is not only of one language, it is all over many different countries. Revelation 17:18 says, And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth, Babylon the Great, Rome, the Catholic Church. 2,000 years ago, the Bible was already pointing out to who was going to be the enemy of the end times before the coming of Christ. Now, many people that do not believe in the Bible, if they could understand this, that with so many details, even marking the gold, the jewels, the golden cup of the Eucharistic, the Mass, and all the different details of how this power dresses up and its colors, they could maybe even be amazed to see, with 2,000 years difference, how this prophecy is being fulfilled today and was already fulfilled in past times, as we'll see. Revelation 13 is a chapter in the Bible that talks about 2 beasts. We are going to talk about one of them in this part. One of them that we'll see that has a direct relation with what we just read in Revelation 17, about this whore-like power, this evil church that goes against the world, trying to dominate with a new world order. And in Revelation 13 is where the mark of the beast is written, the famous number, the 666. And as we will see, we will take a look at the first beast, that is the one that the mark of the beast belongs to it, and we will see so many things similar to what we've just read about this great Babylon, the whore. So let's begin. It says, And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Once again we see a power rising up from water, just like the woman was sitting upon many waters. This power comes up from the sea. So once again we have this symbolism of water. This power rises up in a place where there are many populations and different nations and multitudes. And the beast which I saw was like unto a shepherd, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. This is referring to other prophecies of the Bible that also mark throughout the symbolism of beasts this Roman power that's changed from an imperial power to a papal power, a religious power. And it says that the dragon is the one that gave him his power. What's the dragon? Who is the dragon? Is the dragon China? We see that they have the dragon on their flags. The dragon in the Bible says that it is the ancient serpent, Satan himself, the devil, the fallen angel. The fallen angel himself is the one that gives the power and the reigning over this world to this beast. And it continues. And I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Remember that we said it was a power that was, that is not, yet is. A beast that was at some point of time, that it stopped being because something happened, and then it would recover its power once again. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? So there is no other power on this earth that such of the beast. It is the most powerful thing there is on earth, apart from God, obviously. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 42 months are 1,260 days in prophecy. So this is saying that it was given in a past time 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. But we will see later that there are prophetic meanings for this, prophetic timing. It has a double meaning. Verse 6 says, And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kinds, over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Once again, this power goes against the saints, goes against the martyrs of Jesus. These symbolisms that we saw in Revelation 17 and the first beast of 13 are repeating themselves. They are pointing to the same direction. Now this beast represented what we just read. Basically, it goes directly against freedom of conscience. Something that a certain country in this world that is quite recent, not so many centuries ago, was formed based on freedom of conscience and freedom of religion. So they definitely, this power, the first beast of Revelation 13, wants to eradicate freedom of conscience on this world, forcing everyone to worship the beast through its mark and its sign. And that is what we're going to see. So let's begin and see the history of this power, the Roman Catholic Church. This was from 2024. 1684 years ago, the pagan emperor who founded the Catholic Church died. This was Constantine I, who sought to put together a new religion that would have him at the head. However, he remained a devotee of Mithra. Mithra, have you ever heard of Mithra before? This is one of the characters that we'll be seeing in this presentation. And we will see that it has a relation to our present times. Who is this Mithra? It's very interesting to see that at that point what was worshipping Constantine I and how it is still inside the worshipping of the Roman Catholic religion. So let's begin. Did Jesus, who was never in Rome, founded the Roman Catholic Apostolic Church? The faithful story tells that in reality the founder of Catholicism was the Roman Emperor Constantine I, who is therefore Saint Constantine for the Eastern Orthodox churches and also for the Greek Byzantine Catholic Church. The Church always kept the circumstances of her creation silent, as if she were ashamed that her founder was a pagan Roman emperor. Constantine, the son of a woman today known as Saint Helena, was born in 274 in Naissus in present-day Serbia. The creation of the aforementioned religion was one of the direct consequences of the results of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, fought on October the 28th, 312, between the armies of Constantine and Maxentius for the control of the entire Roman Empire. Well, here it says that they apparently are ashamed of this origin of their religion, but in some of the texts you read of the Catholic Church, they don't have any problem at all because they consider him a saint. The triumph corresponded to Constantine, devout of Mithra, a god that centuries earlier the Roman soldiers had brought from Persia. His personal biographer, Eusebius of Caesarea, author of the books of life of Constantine and history of the Church, assured that by divine revelation he already knew that he would emerge victorious in that battle. In the first of those books, he pointed out that when Constantine was marching to face Maxentio, at a certain moment he looked up to the sky and saw on the sun a cross surrounded by the legend "In hoc sign vinces," with this sign you will overcome. Curious that he saw this symbol when he looked at the sun, directly relating a sun worship with this symbol. Now, in pagan cultures, so many centuries ago, sun worship is definitely related to satanic worship. Satanic cult where there are even human sacrifices done to these gods, these false gods. And this was the symbol which Constantine saw himself, which we know as today as the, well, in Spanish it said the crismón. Curiously, it has the same shape as the keys of the Vatican. We can see that this symbol is still in history and the present of the Roman Catholic Church. Myths aside, the point is that a year later it faced something spectacular, creating a new religion. In an ancient writing drawn up by the Jesuits, the Catholic Church itself recognizes that its founder was Constantine. Wanting to give peace to his church, this is the Jesuits' text, the Lord miraculously converted Emperor Constantine, who was so changed in his heart that in gratitude for such a great mercy, he did not only give permission for temples to be built throughout his domains in which Christ would be glorified, Constantine himself, in his imperial palace at the Lateran, ordered a sumptuous temple to be built in honor of our Savior, the document states. So, curiously to see that in the Bible at no moment Jesus Christ asked for people to build him temples, but this man wants to build huge temples and even one for himself, a great palace, to be able to worship his God, Jesus Christ, apparently. Well, this is directly against scriptures, obviously. And another thing, then, who are they worshipping? Who are they building these temples for? They have only transferred this pagan worship of ancient times and brought it into Christianity, into Christianism, and starting to Christianize in some manner pagan worship, satanic cults. The emperor's goal of establishing a new religion with himself as its head was purely political because he remained devoted to Mithras, the sun god. That is why he modeled his church on the Mithraic priesthood, which until then had been the official religion of Rome. Mithraic priesthood. This is what we will be seeing next. What is this Mithraic priesthood? Where does it come from? Because all of these religions have their origin in Babylon. From the Tower of Babel, where Nimrod was ruling there, trying to govern the world over one world religion and one world governance, along with his wife Semiramis, two very powerful people at that time. And from that moment, they brought in all the different cults that we know today, all the different pagan religions. The church never abandoned its pagan origins. Even the tall, pointed cap worn by the highest ecclesiastical hierarchies during major ceremonies is called a mitre or Persian cap. Even some people may know that's the mitre that the popes wear, or the bishops and cardinals that have this fish-like shape. That comes from a god called Dagon, and he was a Babylonian god, a false god, a demon that they worshipped. And still, the Catholic Roman Church still uses that symbol today because it has nothing of Christian at all. The Edict of Milan, the project for the creation of the new religion, began to be assembled in 313 through the Edict of Milan. In one of his paragraphs of that document, Constantine said, "We have decided to completely annul provisions regarding the name of the Christians who seemed hostile to us and little of our clemency." and to allow from now on all those who want to observe the Christian religion to do so freely without this implying any kind of unrest, discomfort and discomfort. Well, this is translated directly, that's why there might be some mistakes in translation. But basically there was a situation where Christianism was being persecuted by the Roman Empire. They were going against Christians for so many years. This is 3 centuries after the moment of Christ's crucifixion. And Constantine I, what he does is start to defend Christians and their religion. How? Implementing Christianity into the Roman pagan religion, saying, I have become a Christian now, so now I am going to protect you all and give you freedom of conscience to those people that were Christians and were earlier being persecuted. But in what kind of manner was this done? This was changing the doctrines, as we will see. This was changing the truth that Jesus left at the moment of the apostles. Fusing beliefs of the Jews, the Mithraics and Christians, Constantine and the first fathers of the church, were shaping the Roman Catholic Church. This emperor gave himself titles such as Pontifex Maximus, the Maximum Pontiff. This is Vicarius Christi, Bishop for Foreign Affairs, representative of Christ, and our divinity nostrum numen. Our divinity. He is saying that this is God on earth. I am the representative of Christ on earth, therefore I am God himself on earth. This is what they are saying. He also commanded that his palace be considered divine domus, the temple, and arranged that at his death be buried with honors of the 13th apostle. Well, that's curious, because who lives in the palace of apparently the institution that is the representation of God's people on earth? Isn't it the Pope? Doesn't he still live in a great palace there in the Vatican, in the state of the Vatican? And that is the palace, the temple of this world. We can see that things did not change. In addition, they referred to him as Bishop of all, named after all, example of life in the fear of God, and light that illuminates the world. Having founded a religion, gave him more titles and headlines than his own emperor hierarchy. As the highest pontiff, he established as the mandatory holiday, and this is something that is very interesting. For those that do not know their history, this is the point that we will be seeing how it will be repeated in future times, because there is nothing new under the sun. And the sun precisely has something to do with this. He established as a mandatory holiday the Dies Solis, dedicated to the risen Lord. This mandatory weekly day of rest later became Dies Dominicus, that is our current Sunday. Dies Solis, that is the day of the sun. That's why we say it the day as the Sunday, because it is a day of sun worship. That is why Constantine saw the symbol of the chrismon on the sun. So who is the light bearer? Who is the one that brings the false knowledge to this world, the false light? It's Satan himself. Sun worship has always been related to demon worship. The pagan who died as a saint. As noted, the strange thing about this character was that being the founder of a new religion until the end, he remained faithful to the god Mithra. He just converted and was baptized when he felt that his days were already about to end. This is interesting. So apparently he converts to Christianism. He becomes a Christian, but he still remains faithful to his god Mithra, which is a sun god. And at the end of his days, he is baptized and apparently officially converted to Christianity. So let's take a look at this god Mithra. This is a statue that we will see later where it is. It's very interesting. Of this god Mithra, that is slaying the bull. We will see what this means here. It says Mithra was an Indo-Iranian god in ancient Persia, that is Iran. He is mentioned as early as 1400 BC. The cult of Mithra in Rome, Mithraism. Now, I would like you to pay attention to see this follow-up of this, the culture of this Mithraism that was in the moment of the Roman Empire. And if you can see similarities of what we see today in the Roman Catholic Church. So let's see. In contrast to Roman beliefs, which emanated from the Greek Olympus, where agreements were made with the gods to receive a benefit or compensation, monotheistic cults began to spread at the end of the 2nd century BC. These were mainly Eastern or mystery cults, which were welcomed in Rome as a breath of fresh air. Mithraism gave the Romans, especially soldiers who lived in constant danger, a new meaning to their existence, promising another life after death, and assuring its followers of immortality in the afterlife. Mithraism possessed a religious solidity that competed with other nascent religions for almost 5 centuries, and although it was not a mass cult, by the end of the 1st century its worship was widely established, especially among the Roman military and merchants. The Romans, despite maintaining its appearance, the Phrygian cap, the Persian or Median in addition to Iranian trousers, the Anaxarides, a short tunic, manicata and a cape. The Phrygian cap is the thing that we will be seeing. It's that kind of funny hat that Mithra has on his head. We will see that it has great meaning also in our present times. Provided this god with characteristics far removed from Hindu Vedism and the Persians, and based on him they transformed him into a religion known as Mithraism with a strong esoteric character. It was based on secret societies whose initiatory creed exalted courage, honesty and personal boldness. This led to its strong integration into the Roman legions. So based on secret societies, could it be that Roman Catholic religion is also based on secret societies? Well, the thing is that it is, and this is what we are going to see, which is quite interesting because this opens us also to different questions that we can take a look at in future presentations. Where do secret societies come from? When did they begin? Where did they begin? Who began them? Is it written in the Bible? The thing is, it is. There are certain people that did begin secret societies. They begin to organize themselves in secret groups of people, in elite, and they passed on their information from generation to generation up to our days. And the people that are in power today are only the consequences and the following of that timeline of people, that lineage of generations and families and powerful people that have been passing on that information. Some people may have more information, others may have less. There are more powerful people and less. Definitely the people that rule on this world, we do not see their faces. They are not the ones that appear on TV. The people that really rule this world are in the shadows, and they have always been in the shadows, but the Bible reveals who they are through the symbolisms and the names of those people. But that's for another time. But we can see here that this Mithraic cult was based on secret societies, and we can see that the Roman Catholic Church was based on this because it all has the same origin. Babylon, and even before that, I'm talking about before the flood, even before the flood. The myth of Mithra. In its Roman version, the myth tells that Mithras at the beginning of time was born from a rock, Deus ex petra natus, or in a cave of the edge of a spring. He was born of his own free will and saw the light on the winter solstice. Already carrying a dagger and a torch in his hands, shepherds came to worship him, guided by a star. Remember, this is 1,400 years before Christ. How is it possible that we see the same things represented as what people believe today? That Christ, for example, was born on the 25th of December, on the solstice of winter, as we've just read here. That shepherds came to worship him, as we've just read here, and they were guided by a star. So this knowledge of Mithras, seeing that it was already representing Christ that was going to be born 1,400 years later, who could know that? Who could know that those things were going to happen and that would counterfeit that symbolism, that representation, creating a false Christ in false religions before it even happened? This is a mind of an intelligence that we can't even imagine. This is a mind that can also read the Bible, the prophecies, and understand the scriptures much better than we can. And that's Satan, the devil himself. As it was a mystery religion based on oral transmission from initiate to initiate, where followers were obliged to keep the rituals of their cult secret. Our knowledge of it comes mainly from the iconography that's decorated the Mithraea. So from initiate to initiate, secret societies. This was involved in the Roman Empire at that time. And as we said, it was the people that were in this were people that were in the army, in the legions, and also people that were merchants, people that were in positions of power. The powerful people were the ones that were involved in this Mithraic cult. And they were the ones that were immersed in what we are going to read now. It says, according to this iconography, the myth continues as follows. In his heroic endeavor, Mithra hunts a bull, whose horns are the moon, and carries it on his shoulders, but the bull manages to escape, and the son, warning him and aware of the agreements between the two, sends a raven as a messenger with the task of killing the bull. With the help of a dog, Mithras recaptures the bull and takes it to a cave. He holds it by the throat and stabs it in the side with a knife, while the dog assists by biting the bull's neck. All plants beneficial to man spring from the bull's body. From its spine springs grain, the fruit of spiritual regeneration. In representations, the bull's tail usually ends in the form of a large ear of wheat, a symbol of fertility, the bread of life or food of immortality, and from its blood springs wine, the sacred drink symbolizing knowledge. Wow, 1,400 years ago. Now, Christ, his sacrifice is represented in the Bible with animals that were taken to slaughter to represent Christ dying for our sins. But 1,400 years ago, there is a bull here representing Christ himself that is going to be born eventually. But in this pagan worship, what is Mithra doing? He is killing the bull. He is the one that is murdering the bull himself. And it says that the bull lets go his blood and it springs wine. We know how the blood of Jesus Christ is also represented as wine, and how the Catholic Church continues to do it, drinking that wine, saying that that wine is literally Christ's blood. So that's vampirism. They are literally drinking Christ's blood. That's what they believe, that that wine transforms throughout a spiritual magic or somehow. They call it, I think it's called transfiguration or something like that, that they literally are drinking Christ's blood. And that's when they break the Eucharistic bread, they are literally eating Christ's flesh. So So this is vampirism and this is cannibalism at the same time. That's what they believe. I mean, you can go to the Catholic doctrine and you can read it. They literally believe that it becomes Christ's real flesh and blood. And it says that this bull is represented as the bread of life or food of immortality, just as Christ is the bread of life, he said. Here is one of the sculptures that is representing this situation, where we can see Mithra looking away, meanwhile he is slaughtering the bull, and apparently life comes out from this animal. With the death of the bull and the spilling of its blood, vegetation springs forth. But Ahriman, who in the cult of Mithras would represent the god of evil, sends a snake and a scorpion to counteract this profusion of life. The scorpion tries to bite the bull's testicles to steal the vital content of its semen, while the snake tries to drink its blood, but in vain. Finally, the bull ascends to the moon, giving rise to all animal species. From the iconography found, we know that the tauroctony is the central and fundamental icon of Mithraism. It is the moment when the god Mithras kills the bull. Why do I highlight here the scorpion and the snake? We'll see now. Because in Luke chapter 10 it says, Jesus is saying, "And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Notwithstanding in this rejoice not, that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice, because your names are written in heaven." Jesus was giving symbolisms in these animals, in serpents and scorpions, as referring to them as demons. In this context, he is saying that the symbol of demons are snakes and scorpions. And in this, what we just saw before, the snake is trying to drink the blood of the bull, and the scorpion is trying to take the semen, its power of life. So Christ was trying to give life to humanity through his sacrifice. And Satan himself, which is Mithras, basically, along with his fallen angels, his demons, the snakes and the scorpions, were trying to not allow Christ to do that work of salvation for humanity. This is the sculpture that we saw before, which is in the British Museum in London. Curiously, it's right in front of the number 33 glass window. Number 33. I found it a curiosity because it has something to do with what we'll be seeing later. The number 33, many will know that it is one of the highest levels in Freemasonry and secret societies. At the bottom we can see the snake and the scorpion, and at the top we can see that Phrygian cap, which is the symbol that we will be following up to our days today. We can see in Catholic representations how Christ is giving his sacrifice there. Obviously this is all demonic, these images. And what do we see on both sides? We can see angels, by the way, female angels, which in the Bible there is never a representation of a female angel, nor baby angels. That is totally made up by the Catholic Church to make you misinterpret what heaven is truly like. But we can see what they are doing here. They are gathering Christ's blood with the cups. They are doing the same thing as the snake. They are recovering Christ's blood, trying to make it not fall where it should fall, because his blood was to fall on the Calvary and be spilled down through the hole of the cross. It was going to go down 6 meters below, and it was going to fall on top of the mercy seat, and it did. And that's why the prophecy said that he was going to anoint the most holy place. The most holy place in the tabernacle of the desert was the mercy seat, was the throne of God on this earth. And that was placed in a cave by Jeremiah, as the prophecy says, and as Anna White said also, that blood was going to fall onto there to be able to forgive all our sins. If that blood did not fall on top of the mercy seat, as did the high priest every time that he did it was the Yom Kippur, that festivity that once a year they spilled the blood on top of the mercy seat to be able to forgive the sins of the whole people, the whole nation. That was a representation of what Christ was going to do in the future. And we can see how the Catholic Church knows exactly what Christ was going to do on the cross. And that is why they have these drawings of these false angels, these demons, collecting his blood, trying to do everything that was possible to not allow that sacrifice to do what it was going to do, which was give us forgiveness and eternal life. In ancient Egyptian, Mycenaean and Minoan cultures, the bull, especially the fighting bull, was considered to be a vessel of transformative energy. For this reason, it was the animal of choice for sacrifices, giving its blood for the salvation or evolution of the spirit. Those who drank its blood and ate its flesh were regenerated, transforming themselves into new men, into a kind of demigod. Eating its flesh and drinking its blood. Curious also how here in Spain, in this country, we have, the bull sport. I don't know how it's said exactly in English. We call it los toros, which is where there is a man with a sword, and eventually, they torture the bull in a ring, in an arena, and finally they kill it, they slay the bull. And this is a national sport here in Spain, torturing the bull. Well, we can see how this is a representation, because it's a satanic sport, basically, representing the murder of Christ on behalf of the fallen angels. And people participate in this, and they do it with great joy. And many of them are even Christians, apparently. It's because it is very common between Catholic people here in Spain. So as we can see, this cult of murdering the bull isn't even in national sports. Tauroctony is the representation of Mithras as a god so powerful that he is capable of transforming the very order of the universe. Mithras, both god and man, taught people to free themselves from the world, time and death, and to achieve dedication in heaven. Isn't this just a copy of what Christ said in the Bible? He said he came to help us to be relieved from the world, to get out of the world and be citizens of heaven. And also, he was both God and man at the same time. This is 1,400 years before Christ. Satan knew how Christ was going to come in this world. Furthermore, the cloak that covers the god Mithras, always blue and waving in the wind, is usually marked with 7 stars. This is possibly a reference to these constellations or to the planets known at the time, or perhaps to the different degrees of initiation of his followers. Degrees or grades, since this is a literal translation from Spanish. Grades of initiation. Doesn't this sound like Freemasonry, where you have different grades of initiation until you get up to 33 or even beyond? This is the Mithraic of the Basilica of Saint Clement. It should be remembered that even among the Sumerians and the early Indo-Aryans, the number 7 held the mystery of the unknown, the anxiety after completing a cycle of knowing what the next one would be like. Well, the Bible says that there would be 7,000 years, 6,000 years of sin, and 1,000 years Sabbath, a 7,000-year cycle. We have a 7-day week cycle. There is a cycle of 7. The 7 is a special number, and these people know what they're talking about. It says, archaically, it was considered a magical number as it is composed of the sacred number 3, perfection, and the earthly number 4, referring to the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and the 4 cardinal points. The magical number 7 is the bridge between heaven and earth and represents the totality of the universe in motion, hence its symbolism occupies a preeminent place in the cult of Mithras, the bridge between heaven and earth. Christ himself came here to be the bridge between heaven and earth, so that we could have a communion with our Creator through him. The central act of the Mithraic cult was the agape, a commemoration of the mythical sacred banquets held by Mithras with the sun after defeating the bull. Although the main dishes were presumably the meat and blood of the sacrificed bull, the remains found suggest that in most cases such an important victim was not sacrificed, as more remains of birds than of bulls have been found. What was part of the sacred banquet was bread and wine, possibly as a substitute for the meat and blood of the bull, and those who participated in it were called to rise again after death. And the truth is that this cult of having bread and wine in a spiritual ceremony is even before this time. It's even in Egypt and even before that. Bread and wine. Doesn't this ring a bell? Doesn't it sound familiar? And this pagan cult is continued to be done today, where they said that God himself comes down by the order of the priest into the apparently holy bread and into the wine, so that when they drink that wine and when they eat that bread, they are literally eating and drinking the blood and flesh of Jesus Christ. Cannibalism and vampirism. In the Roman cult of the mysteries of Mithras, there were 7 levels of initiation. These levels from highest to lowest are as follows. Now let's take a look at these different 7 points of initiation one by one, because it's interesting to see the similarities of the Roman Catholic religion today. First level, Corax, raven or Mercury. The raven was the messenger of the sun. Like the vulture, it is an animal that can eat carrion without regurgitating or suffering in indigestion. It transmutes the harmful into something useful and nutritious. Hence it occupies the first level of initiation, which may even have been reserved for children. To access it, the neophyte was baptized with water to purify him of his sins and was given a mantra to repeat. This act of initiation symbolized the death of the adept in this world and his entry into new spiritual life. Their function in the meetings was that of servants in the cult. Baptized with water. Children initiated. Isn't this the baptism? Yes, there is a true baptism, but the true baptism is done when the person is conscient of the decision that he or she is making. That means that when you are morally able and capable of taking that decision, to know the path that you are walking and know that you are doing a covenant with God to follow his commandments, then that has to be done at a certain age, normally from 12 years of age forwards. But this, you have no conscience if you are baptizing when you are a baby. You don't know what they are doing with you. Probably neither your parents know what they're doing with you, because this is not biblical at all. Second level, Nymphus, bridegroom or chrysalis, Venus. This was the second level where the neophyte, also called Criphius, the hidden one, probably a teenager, became the bridegroom of Mithras. As such, he pledged to remain celibate and devoted to the cult. Third level, Miles, soldier or Mars. This is the last of the lower degrees. The neophyte, naked, kneeling, blindfolded and with his hands tied, has a crown placed on his head and his bonds are cut. He then removes the crown from his head, places it on his shoulder and exclaims, "Mithras is my only crown." In this way he symbolically rejects the crown of the material realm, being freed from the mundane. Blindfolded. Also, just like the steps of ascending in certain grades of Freemasonry, how they are blindfolded and forced to do certain rituals to be able to ascend to a higher level. It says this is where the spiritual battle against his own ego truly begins and his submission to Mithras commences. The new soldier is branded with a cross on his forehead, possibly a svastika, an Aryan symbol representing the dynamic manifestation of the universe, or perhaps a simple cross with two equal arms, representing the sun as the center of the globe. As we can see here, the main objective of this is sun worship, because the svastika is also a symbol of sun worship. It didn't came from the Nazis. It was many thousands of years ago before that time. This comes from Babylon, and it is a sun worship cult, the sign of the svastika. Now, a cross on the forehead, we see here Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, wearing this Wednesday Ash, or Ash Wednesday, cross on his forehead in public. I mean, this was something like a public declaration of, I am a Catholic religious follower, and I am to the core, to the bone, and I will follow this and implement this in the state if possible. This is what he is saying here. I am a devote of Mithras. Not Mithras himself, but maybe the one that Mithras represents, the light bearer, Lucifer. As we can see here, for example, in the tomb of Alexander the Great, we have this svastika symbol, this sun worship symbol. We can see it also in a cathedral in Tampico, Mexico. We can see it in the Farnese Palace in Italy, which is actually the French embassy today. So, very interesting to see this sun worship symbol in different countries and different parts of the world. This is a Scottish Rite Masonic temple in the US. As we can see here, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Supreme Council 33 Museum and Library. And in here we can also see the svastika, the sun worship symbol, and above it, on the left part of the image, we can see these cubes and eggs. And on the left side, we can see also cubes and eggs. Also, well, we have the two-headed eagle and the star, what they say is the Star of David, which is actually the Star of Remphan. All these are basically satanic symbols. Although people look at them and say, oh, that looks kind of Greek, doesn't it? The svastika and all these kind of things. Because they were all worshipping the same gods. The same gods changed their names, they changed their attributes, but they were the same people. The ones that began secret societies after the flood. And eventually we will talk about this. As we can see here in the Masonic temple, eggs, cubes and svastika. In Alexander's tomb, eggs, cubes and svastika. Basilica of San Lorenzo, Florence, eggs, cubes, once again. And also in the Ark of Titus in Rome, we can see eggs and cubes. Now, what do these eggs mean? There was a goddess, precisely, that had a load of eggs representing her breasts on her breast, which was Diana. This was the goddess Diana that is mentioned in the Bible, which is also Artemis. It is always the same goddesses, changing their names, but they are representing the same woman that existed in a certain period of time, and that eventually is being worshipped today by this beast, by this power, the Great Babylon, the Roman Catholic Church. And she is the woman that represents that great whore. Fourth level, Leo, Lion or Jupiter. This is the first level of the elevated, where the adept makes a definitive commitment to the community. Presumably this involved in a change of name, as would later happen in Christian monasticism. What a coincidence! So 1,400 years before Christ, they already had this change of name in the certain level when you ascend in these grades of the secret societies of Mithraism, and it is also in Christian monasticism, where they give different names. And this is also in certain cults that people go into, they also get a name change. Where did this come from? The adept's hands and mouth are purified with honey, as water is incompatible with fire, to which the neophyte belongs and with which he is associated. Honey was considered a divine substance and symbolized protection against any external infiltration. Honey, why would honey be sacred? Very interesting that, because a honey or what we, not the honey is made by bees, and bees work in a community, but they have a queen bee also. There we'll see about the bees. Why is it also that in the Vatican they like bees? They like honey. We can see here in the Basilica of St. Peter, in shields of different popes, in shields of places in the Vatican, they like the bee. But which bee? The mother bee, the queen bee. That is the one that they worship, the queen bee. Now, who is the queen bee, or who was the queen bee? We'll carry on seeing it. But curious, because the bees have their own, they make the honeycomb, don't they? And the honeycomb has different little cells, all of the same shape, which are hexagons. And hexagons, how many sides do they have? 6. So the bee is also symbolizing the number 6. And as we can see here, for example, on the shields, how many bees are there? 3 bees, 3 sixes, 666. Can't we see here the mark of the beast? The mark of the beast symbolized by them, they want to take people to that. And they communicate with symbols that ordinary people do not have any idea what they are talking about. We continue. The lion carries the food prepared by the lower degrees, the sacred agape, and participate in it. They were also the ones who took care of the sacred fire and offered incense. The sacred fire, as some pagan cultures do also, but the incense. That was also done in the tabernacle of the desert. But the way that they do it is definitely not the way that the true Jewish people did it at that time. Level 5, Perses, Persian and Moon. Here the initiate is once again purified with honey and given a white and yellow cloak. As a symbol he is given a dagger representing the one used by Perseus to behead the Gorgon. This implies that the neophyte must continue the struggle until he destroys the lower instincts of his being, the animals. White and yellow. Curious to see the color of the Vatican flag. Level 6, Heliodromus, Solar Emissary or Sun. At this level, the initiate is the representative of the sun as the sacred banquet. He sits next to the pater, which means father, who presides on behalf of Mithras. He is characterized by his red tunic, the color of the sun and blood. So the pater, which is the father, is the one that presides on behalf of Mithras, the representative of the sun god. And he wears a red cloak. The father. Don't they call the priests father? And the Bible says, do not call anyone father unless you call your father that is in heaven. Why do they call themselves fathers? The paters. Because they are following the same kind of cult, which is a cult, demonic cult, against the truth and against Christ. The 7th level, the pater, father or Saturn. This is the highest rank. The pater is the spiritual teacher of the community. He is dressed in a red tunic with yellow trimmed sleeves and wears a red Phrygian cap on his head. Together with the Heliodromus, he presides over ritual banquets personifying Mithras. As symbols of his rank, a patera, which is a bowl in its Gnostic sense, is a symbol of spiritual poverty. Hangs from his shoulder, he also carries a staff and a sickle. And we see here red robes, yellow sleeves, yellow colors over him, and also the staff. And here on the right we see him with the kings of Spain. And curiously, have you ever asked yourself why she is dressed in white? And why always the people that go to visit the Pope always dress in black? They always dress in black because they are saying we are not worthy of being in his presence. But he that dresses in white, he is pure. He is purified and he is God himself here on earth. But only Catholic queens, as here the Queen of Spain, can go to a Pope dressed in white because they are representing the bridegroom. The bride. She is representing the bride and the Pope is representing the bridegroom, Christ himself. That is why they can go dressed in white. A curious detail. The AI tells us the hierarchy levels in the Catholic Church from highest to lowest are commonly listed as, because I said, well, how many levels must there be in Catholic Church? I'm going to ask. And the first answer I got was this. First one, the Pope. Second, the cardinals. Third, the archbishops. Fourth, the bishops. Fifth, the priests. Sixth, the deacons. Seventh, the laity. 7 levels of the secret society of Mithraism, 7 levels in the Catholic Church. The 7th, the highest one, was the Pope. The first one in this case in the Catholic Church is the Pope. At the bottom we have the lay people. It's the same thing. Evolution of Mithraism. It says its members called each other fratris or brothers and considered themselves equal, whether they were free or slaves, rich or poor, noble or commoners. At some point in the evolution of Mithraism, the rite of taurobolium, or baptism of the faithful with the blood of a freshly sacrificed blood, was also used as practiced by other Eastern religions, which is this one over here, where they did this kind of structure, and on top of it they would sacrifice the bull, and the person had to get under that to receive all the blood of the bull to pour over that person. And this was the manner that they were baptized at that time. At the end of the 3rd century, a syncretism arose between the Mithraic religion and certain solar cults of Eastern origin, which crystallized in Rome into the new religion of Sol Invictus. Although there is no reliable evidence, Mithra's birth is accepted as having taken place on the 25th of December, coinciding approximately with the winter solstice, and this date was commemorated. The followers of Mithras also sanctified Sunday, the day of the sun, as well as the 16th of each month. Once again, 25th of December. Christ, when he is born, the shepherds that go looking for him are pasturing the sleeves. They are taking the sheep with them, to go and eat in a moment of winter in the Middle East, when the nights are extremely cold. They cannot be camping outside at that time. And the Bible explains also that the time of Christ's birth was in September, October. It was in autumn. It was the moment of tabernacles, the festivity that represented God with his people, not the 25th of December. Well, here are the references of the bibliography if anyone is interested to take a look. And now this is interesting. Grand Provincial Lodge of the Balearic Island. This is the island, some islands there are here in Spain. This is a Freemasonry page. This is a Facebook page of a Freemason lodge. And it says here, Sol Invictus, which means unconquered sun, is a solar deity revered in the Roman Empire from the 3rd century AD, especially under the Emperor Aurelian. It symbolizes light, truth, and invulnerability, representing the strength of the sun that is reborn despite of the darkness. Its most notable festival was celebrated on the December 25th, coinciding with the winter solstice, and it is considered that he influenced the choice of the date of the birth of Jesus Christ. Sol Invictus is depicted with a radiant halo and shares similarities with other solar deities, reflecting the universal veneration of the sun in different cultures. Or better said, the universal veneration of Satan in different cultures, because that is the master workpiece that the demons have done, taking people to worship them instead of the true God. And as we can see here, doesn't this sound familiar? The Sol Invictus on the left is identical as the Eucharistic utensils that are used for the Mass, representing apparently Christ, but this is satanic symbolism. And isn't it a coincidence to see how it is the same symbol of the Jesuits? Mithraism. Let's continue in another page. This is the University of Chicago. It says, the faithful referred to Mithras as the light of the world, symbol of truth, justice, and loyalty. He was mediator between heaven and earth and was a member of a holy trinity. According to Persian mythology, Mithras was born of a virgin given the title Mother of God. The god remained celibate throughout his life and valued self-control, renunciation, and resistance to sensuality among his worshippers. Mithras represented a system of ethics in which brotherhood was encouraged in order to unify against the forces of evil. According to Persian traditions, the god Mithras was actually incarnated into the human form of the savior expected by Zarathustra. Mithras was born of Anaita, an immaculate virgin mother, once worshipped as a fertility goddess before the hierarchical reformation. Anahita was said to have conceived the savior from the seed of Zarathustra, preserved in the waters of Lake Hamun, etc. 1,400 years ago. Satan already knew that Christ was going to be born of a virgin. He already knew how it was going to be, and he was already preparing this false cult to a mother of God, the Mother Earth, what is the unification of all the different Mother God deities. Deities of fertility, of sexuality, of birth, of the crops, all of it in one, taken up to our times. Can we think of a Mother of God today, in present days, that is worshipped as immaculate? The worshippers of Mithras held strong beliefs in a celestial heaven and infernal hell. They believed that the benevolent powers of the god would sympathize with their suffering and grant them the final justice of immortality and eternal salvation in the world to come. They looked forward to the final day of judgment in which the dead would resurrect and to a final conflict that would destroy the existing order of all things to bring about the triumph of light over darkness. Amazing! Because the Bible says precisely there will be a resurrection at the end times. That when Christ comes for the second time, the saved are resurrected. And there is another resurrection, the second one, it says in Revelation, that are those that are the wicked that will not be saved, and they are resurrected to be fulminated, to be dead forever. The largest Near Eastern Mithraic was built in Western Persia at Kangavar, dedicated to Anaita, the Immaculate Virgin Mother of the Lord Mithras. The Virgin Mary. Yes, the Virgin Mary. So Anaita, goddess of war, fertility, wisdom, healing, water. On the left we see the Armenian goddess of Anait. On the right we see the Iranian. Both are the same goddess. And what does Anaita have beside her? Lions. Just like Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess, that also was on top of lions. And what does she have on her sides also? Owls. They both have wings. It's the same representation of the goddess. Anaita has one breast discovered. Ishtar is completely naked. Why? Because these were goddesses of sexual perversion that took those pagan cults to depravation completely. And their main worship to these goddesses was through, well, sexual depravation, sodomy and everything else that you can think of. It says, the origin, the name and cults are derived from Old Iranian, where Anaita means spotless or pure. It says, yes, the Armenian goddess of Anait is considered the same deity or a closely related counterpart to the Iranian goddess Anaita. After the Christianization of Armenia in the early 4th century, its worship disappeared, although the image of a chaste and fruitful goddess was reflected in the Virgin Mary, Mother of Christ. So, this goddess had this form, but as we can see here, she had a crown. She was queen, and today we have another queen. And don't you see her with the same rays as Mithras? The same sun worship rays around her head, and the 8-pointed star. The 8-pointed star is the star of Ishtar, the goddess that we saw before. It's the same worship to the same Mother of God, the same Satan himself, because he is deceiving people throughout this female worship, taking humanity to a false worship. And these appearances of the Virgin Mary that have happened and will happen once again are to take humanity to what? To the final great deception, where Satan himself will appear to humanity. And this figure has a key task to take people to that precisely. She is the one that is going to do the work of opening the path, of clearing the road for people to go to worship the false Christ. Now I think this has been enough for now. This will leave it for the second part. To move back to where we were, the beginning of Catholicism, we've done a review on history to see how this pagan worship that is being done today belongs to that great beast that is to take the world to the New World Order. It is the same worship and cult that was done 1,400 years before Christ, and even before that. The beginning of secret societies, the beginning of the Mother God worship, the beginning of the sexual cults, of all that is involved in today in the Catholic Church, of everything that we know about sexual abuse with minors and so on. This is very old. There is nothing new under the sun. But we will see eventually where does this come from. The beginning of these secret societies, and who were the ones that ruled at that time and who are the ones that rule today. that is what we're going to continue in this next part. So we'll leave it here for now because it has been quite enough. And we will continue, we'll follow on to see how this prophecy moves on about the power that was, that is not, and yet is.